Don't worry, we are not going into FPP just yet. I know I'm early, but I thought I would show you guys what my setup, like how long it takes and what I do when I'm trying to set up. And I'm going to go extra, so I have like my little light here, and I'm going to turn it on and have it right over my cutting area. I've got my ring light on. I need to plug in my laptop. There's a ton of stuff that goes into setting up sometimes, so I thought it'd be interesting to just show you guys typically how long it would take. So I'm plugging in my laptop so it doesn't die, plugging in my mini iron. I've got my ring light on. I've turned on a little light right over my area right here. And then now I'm going to get a cord and my camera right here. I have to give this cord back to my mother-in-law or my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. They let me borrow it. But I thought to get the perfect overhead angle, I'm going to go extra. I got my Archon mount, and so I'm going to set it up and have it be right over the area. And then maybe if my phone cooperates, I can also have like a regular one too. So I just wanted to show you guys what goes into setting up sometimes. Sometimes it's not just click and go. I try to get down here usually like 15 minutes early, just so I have time to do everything. I'm printing out my templates right now too, so if you haven't done that yet for tonight, get those printed out and trim them out so that when it hits 8 o'clock, we can get started. Hello, everybody. Oh gosh, I see a lot of people in the chat already. Hello, Brenda, Nancy, Janet. Good morning, Linda, Paula, Janine, Courtney. Hello, Crystal, Janine. Hi, Mary. Yes, I will. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. I just thought I would come on here and show you guys kind of what goes into trying to get the perfect angle. Now, I'm still learning. So, you know, I've learned that this mount works really well with my camera. And so we're going to go for it. Sometimes it's like a pain in the booty to figure out like the best way to do things. But I've gotten better, I feel like. So we're just going to... This is a great mount. This mount is expensive, but it's really, really helpful for filming reels and stuff, especially like overhead things. It's really, really nice. And it's really heavy too. It's not flimsy. Like this is good quality, very sturdy. So now I'm going to put my camera on here. I always get so nervous. I'm like, don't fall before I get you screwed in. There we go. The only thing you have to be careful about is like how the weight is being distributed on here. Like you want it to not tip it over. If it's like off and it's not perpendicular to the corner, it'll tip a little bit. Even though it is really heavy, it's just the weight of your... Hi, Maddie. Hi, Mary. Yes, we are. I thought I would come up a little bit early, or I guess come down and get set up because I didn't have a lot of time. We just got the kids down, got them baths and such. So thought I would come in a little bit early and show you guys how I set up things. So this should be a really good view, I think, right about here. And if I need it to go higher, that's about as high as it's gonna go. We can also zoom in too by going, okay. So I'm gonna do this, and then, so you guys are gonna lose this, but I'm gonna send my phone a link so that I can also find a way to prop up my phone a little bit. And there you go, have you guys see my face too. But I thought, even if we don't figure it out to where you get my face view, you guys don't want to see my face, you want to see what we're doing. So, okay. We plug this part in. And I say this all the time, the hardest part about YouTube sometimes is cord management. There's so many cords and there's so many hazards, obviously, with an iron and sharp things, and so we want to make sure that this is weighed down. I don't want that in the way. My dog is like about to jump off. I'm gonna have this so that my table stops it from tipping. And then we're gonna plug it in over here to my computer. There we go. I wish Restream, that's like my only issue with Restream, is that I wish you could have 2 camera options with being on like one device. I have to go on 2 different devices for this to work, which is bothersome. Will you be taking strap off camera? I'm just going to make sure it's not in the view for you guys. Okay, I click on that. Austin's gonna be so proud of me. I had to learn this for Angela the other day. I had to like learn my tech stuff. Video ZV1. Woo! There we go. Hello, everybody. Okay, so now we've got a nice overhead. I like to move it off just a little bit. The blocks are pretty small, so should be enough room right there. I hope that's a good view. Let me get my link. And I might be able to just do it like this. Is going to work out really well, I think. Hold on. Alrighty, so I'm going to do, no, we don't want to do that. No. Bum, 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 bum. How do I do that? How do I do that? See, I feel like I learn how to do things and then I forget. And do. Good thing I came on early. I don't want to go back. Can I add a channel? No, I don't want to do that. Paired channels. Copy link. Save. Okay, I'm back in here now. Hey, girlfriend! Thank you, guys. I'm trying. I am trying. Okay. We're almost ready to start, so I need to get this set up. I'm going to send him the code, and he's going to be like, why did you send me a code? Okay. Bam. And then I'm going to try and get on my phone. Okay, so let's do right here. Blum, 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 blum. Be awesome if I could get this set up the way that I want it to. Let's get our fabric. Okay, well, I've got a lot to work from, so I'm going to leave those there. Maybe I'll use this stuff. Because I don't really want to break into like my giant yardage. So I'm just getting my fabric ready. Join stream. Bam, ba, ba, bum. Allow. And so Beth, done, join. I think I'll mute myself here. That does not sound good. Hello? Hello? Okay, I think that'll work. You know, this isn't my favorite angle though. I don't know how I would, because usually I use my mount. Let's try this. This is gonna be super far away though. I'm telling you guys, this is why I wanted to come on and show you guys that sometimes it just takes a lot of fiddling around to find like the best setup. Hi Teresa, I saw Teresa just jumped on. We're almost ready. Bear with me. The kids were, I'm gonna go behind here so it looks like I don't even know if this is a good view because you guys are just going to see all of the stuff behind here, which that's not really fun. So maybe we'll just skip that view. Do you guys really want that view? I mean, that's not really that great. What if I moved that? Let me know in the chat. Does it bother you if there's no like overhead? I mean, this isn't like a great view. Hi, there's a camera strap right here. Turn the phone. Oh, good idea. Thank you, Teresa. Here we go. Does that work? Oh, hold on. I think I have to do, there we go. Okay. You know what we call that? It's as good as it's gonna get, folks. That's what I think we are gonna call that. Hopefully it works. Works well enough. Okay, we're gonna turn this volume down. We want this to be our main volume. Even though I'm not really hearing anyone talk, it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's see, what time is it? I got a couple minutes, so I know I told you guys to print your stuff out, and I did not listen. We've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to print this out real quick, or cut it out real quick. So here we go. Man, I might have to turn on the fan. I put on this sweatshirt because it's like a quilty one, and I'm already sweating because I'm like running around. Those lights get hot too. Thank you, Mary. Yay. And see, like, these are supposed to be 6-inch blocks. They'll make 6-inch blocks if you printed it correctly. Another like really great fun thing you can do with FPP because of like the nature of FPP. Say you didn't want a 6-inch block and you wanted a 12-inch block. You would print it at 200%. So like there's also like an equation you can find online. Say you're wanting something like a very specific size. You would take the size it is, divide it by the size you want, and I think you would multiply it by 100, I think. I don't know. I saw it the other day and I was like, oh, that's cool. Because I only really know how to do like, okay, if you want a 3-inch block, then you do 50%. Like I only know how to do that easy stuff. Alrighty. We've got our masking tape on standby in case we need to seam rip for whatever reason. It happens. It happens. Happens to me all the time. Woo! I'll put my hair up and maybe turn on this fan. Then we can get started. We were listening to some Michael Jackson today. I finally got Zoe into some good music. She really likes Donna Summers too. All right, we've got a fan going. We've got our templates cut out. I only have one cut out. I think we should be able to make 1 or 2 tonight before I have to hop off. If you want to continue past, once I get off, you can. And then we can meet back this weekend to make some more. It's like 100 degrees here, Beth, and you're wearing a sweatshirt. It's cozy. But yes, it is very uncomfortable. Before I forget, I'm going to grab my my little magic mouse and keyboard so that I can see what you guys are saying because my laptop's a little far away. So I'm going to attach those and then we should all be ready to go. Hello, Donna. Oh my gosh, yeah, I have that fan and that's definitely helping. That is definitely helping. Come on. There we go. Okay, we are set now. Okay, is everyone ready to start? I know I'm a few minutes early. I just thought I would hop on a little bit early, get everyone in the chat, and show you guys kind of how long it takes me to set up because I'm a mess, honestly. Oh yeah, I have to grab black as well. Glad I saw that in the chat because I was like trying to decide. I'm like, what do I want to use for my bulb fabric? Just beat it, beat it, beat it. No one wants to beat it. Na, 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 na. Alrighty. I think what I'm gonna do, so I've got this as a black option. I wish you could see that, but if I move my light closer, then you're gonna see a light right in my face. And then I just have like solid black. So I think maybe we'll do just solid black and let the Christmas fabric shine. And so let me show you what I'm thinking. I apologize in advance if usually I'm really good about following the chat, but it is harder sometimes to do that while you're focusing. So I think what I'm gonna do is use my Christmas morning fabric because I am using this table runner for a swap. So when we get this all sewn up and it's all done, I'm sending it to someone. And one of the guidelines is to use like quilt shop quality fabric, like something that would pain you to send to somebody else because then you know it's good, right? So this is my favorite Christmas fabric ever. I have a ton of it in my armoire over there. So I'm going to use this as my background. This is my all-time favorite Christmas background ever. I have like 6 yards of it in my cabinet. So I went a little overboard last year. I really did. And then what I'm thinking is I'm going to use the reds of the fabric line. Obviously, we're only going to make like 1 or 2 tonight. But my overall plan is to alternate between red and green lights. So I'm going to use the red and greens of the fabric line. And the cool thing about these templates are they are on the small side. So you can get a lot done without needing a ton of fabric. So that is an added bonus to this. So I'm going to pop out what I want to make first. Okay, I think I'm going to do this green fabric with the background, and then this will be the string. So I'm going to move all of this stuff out of the way. And if we have time to do more, we will. If you guys are interested, I have to work on Donna's blocks this week. I really want to get those done. But if you're interested in maybe tomorrow working on more of these, let me know because I can stay up. Well, actually, I'm going to be at a quilt shop party. Okay, so let's just get started. First things first, you have your templates cut out. Let me move this a little down. I know it's going to make the other view a little, hold on. There we go. Make it a little bit closer, right about there. So you can actually see what I'm doing. Is that better? It was kind of far away. Come on. Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. I should have been ready. All right, so we've got our templates all ready to go. They're printed out, they're cut out. So the first thing that I want to do on any FPP pattern that doesn't have labels, as you can see, this just has the sewing direction. So A1, A2, A3. What I'm going to do before I start so that later on I don't get confused, I don't have to seam rip, none of that. I'm going to go with just a pen or a pencil and I'm going to label my pieces. Okay, so I know that these sections right here are our background fabric, so I'm going to put BG. And then this one is my Christmas light fabric. And I'm going to let my dogs out, or otherwise you're going to hear them hooting and hollering like mad. Oh my goodness. Go outside. Sorry, it's a one-woman show over here. Austin's up there with the girl, with Louise. So, and of course they're barking. Okay, So then I'm going to move it here so I know. And if you have like the first page of the pattern, that always helps to reference. But I know that this is also this Christmas light fabric, and this is BG, BG. Okay. And then I like to just lay them out how they go. So I know this is also BG, BG. I'm going to just do cord on there, cord. This step, I know it might seem a little like, come on, do we really have to do that? I just really recommend, especially if you're newer at FPP, always take the time to just do this step. And on this very little one, I'm going to reference the pattern. I don't have it right with me. So I always like to have my iPad near me when I'm working on patterns, especially FPP, because I don't like to print out the whole pattern. It gets expensive. You got to use the paper, you got to use your ink, and it just gets too much. So I like to have my iPad nearby so that I can reference the pattern without paying for the ink. So I'm going to type in Christmas. Okay. And so what I also like about doing it on my laptop is I can zoom in and really see some details. Now on this one, it's a more basic pattern, so it's not as helpful. But when you have patterns that have so many pieces, and maybe they're not labeled, and maybe on the template sheet, you can't really tell what goes where. This is really helpful if you do have an iPad or even on your phone. Take it and just zoom in, okay? So I can see, all right, this is, a black piece. And it also helps to look to see how your pieces are going to be positioned. All right, so I know that this one is my background and this one is my cord. And I'm just going to have, you can also just put B for black fabric if that's what you're using. I'm just using labels that make sense to me, so you can use whatever. Let's start with the easy sections. All of these are going to be fairly painless, okay? I'm promising you. But let's start with A. Okay, so let's just assume that you're brand new to FPP. You are going to pay attention to the numbers, okay? That's going to tell you in what order you're piecing your block. And so I'm going to look right at A1, all right? And I see the label. It's CL, so for me, that tells me that's my Christmas light fabric, okay? So A1, Christmas light fabric. So I'm going to pull my fabric. I'm going to get my iron, just a dry iron. You could always start your fabrics ahead of time. Really stiff fabrics for FPP works well, but really soggy fabrics do not. So that is something to keep in mind. If you're going to use starch or something like that, just make sure you get your fabric prepped ahead of time, okay? And so I've got my fabric ironed right here. Let me move this over. Here it is. I ironed it. And sometimes I like to just lay my template over and kind of see what size it is. And I'm really focusing right here. We're going to want a 1/4 inch into A3, into A2, and outside of the block. So templates give you your 1/4 inch seam allowance. That little dotted line on the outside of your block, that's your 1/4 inch line, okay? So you don't really have to worry about that, but you do have to say, okay, well, I know I need a 1/4 inch into A3, and I know I need a 1/4 inch into A2 because that's where I'm going to piece it. Okay, let me get that for you, Teresa. Instagram. I should have had it ready to go. It is in my community post. Hold on. Griffin and the bear. I can get it in just a second. I'll post it in the link or the comments, and then you guys can, I'll pin it and you guys can reference it if you don't have it yet. We do not want her owl. I have her owl. It's really, really cute. But we are working on a Christmas light, so we're going to copy that, bring it back on over into here. Okay, I'm going to pin it right there. There you go. There is the link, and it's pinned, so it's right there for you. Sorry, I see that my phone is. Man, what a hot mess express. Just say it like it is. Oh my goodness. Let's do this one because my phone is telling me, feed me power. Close. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to cut out a section that I think is going to cover A1 completely, and give us a little extra wiggle room as well for our seam allowances. So I put it on there. I can kind of eyeball it. That's definitely going to be big enough, I feel like. So here's what I cut out right here. You can also, after you cut it out, just to check, you could lay it on top. Wow, I've got a ton of extra right here. That is a ton. So for the first piece on any FPP template ever, like this is the rule, okay? The first piece is always going to be right sides down. So if you're working with solid fabric, this does not apply to you. If you're working with batiks, it does not apply to you. But with pattern fabric such as this that has a right side and a definite wrong side, you are going to want to lay your fabric right sides down, okay? Right sides down. That is for the first piece and the first piece only. And then you're going to lay your template on top. And you're going to make sure that it's all the way enclosed with fabric. Sometimes, let me move this just a little bit. Sometimes I will like put my finger on, you know, the section, and I'll lift over on this side. I'll lift over on this side. I see that I'm well within my seam allowance on top, and then I commit to it, okay? So it's really good to always cut bigger than you think you're going to need. Especially when you're starting out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my craft glue stick. You can use any Elmer's, you know, glue stick. You don't have to have anything fancy. But if you do, say you have Soline glue or you're using acorn glue, whatever, that works fine. You're just going to put a little bit on here. I like this stuff because it's cheap and it comes in a really big fat stick. So you can't go wrong there. All right. Okay. So you put it on the back of your A1. You're now going to lay it on top of your fabric and then kind of smooth it on so that it adheres. That glue and your fabric gets together, okay? Okay, then you're going to take a straight edge of any sort, okay? There are no wrong answers here. You could always use your add a quarter ruler that you have out for this already, okay? You don't have to get an extra thing out. I really like using cards, business cards, because they're smaller in my hand. They're not like as clunky, and I feel like I can really get that fold where I want it to be. But there are different solutions for everybody, okay? So my way is not the only way. You can use your ruler. A lot of people will use like architecture rulers because they have those lifted edges, like a little triangle, so that can help. Okay, so we put our fabric on. Turn your piece over. Like, okay, here's what you're seeing right here. Turn it over and make sure that your pretty fabric, your pretty pattern is facing out, okay? That's what you want to see. You want to make sure before you start sewing at that itty bitty sew length that you have this part correct. So we've got that correct. It looks good to me. I'm now going to find the line that connects A1 to A2. So what line connects A1 to A2? I'm going to be looking at this line right here. And the reason why we're going to A1 to A2 is 1, 2, 3. We're going to follow numerical order always. So A1, A2, that line is right here. So I'm going to place my card or my straight edge, whatever I'm using, right up at that line, maybe just a tad of a hair below it. And I'm going to fold my paper back. And I'm going to give it a little crease right there. And I'm seeing that the lighting is a little shisty. So I'm more concerned about you guys seeing what I'm doing than seeing my face. So I apologize that my phone is not a great view, but I would rather you guys see what I'm doing, especially if you're a little bit newer. So I hope that helps, at least a little bit. Okay? So many things. Yeah, you definitely can't see my face now. Anyway, So then you're going to take your 1/4" ruler or any other ruler you have. You don't have to join the 1/4" ruler, but I do recommend if you think you're going to be doing this for a while, this is an amazing ruler. It's got a nice raised edge on the side that makes it so easy to just catch it up on that fabric. Do you see that? Boop, boop. That's really nice. And you know that this is always going to be a 1/4" right here. So then you're going to take your rotary cutter and give it a slice. Slice. And then I always just hold on to this kind of stuff. You know, it does look big enough to use later on. So don't be too quick to throw away your scraps. FPP is very scrap friendly. So just keep on to those, okay? And so now I need to look at what A2 is going to be. So I have it labeled as a background fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my background fabric. Now I have a ton of this. This looks like a 1/2 yard almost. So I'm just going to cut off a little piece of it because I like to Swiss cheese my fabric. And so I don't want to Swiss cheese a whole 1/2 yard. I'll Swiss cheese like an 1/8 of a yard. How about that? That'll be plenty for what we're doing. So I'm going to fold the rest. I'm going to save this beautiful fabric, okay? And then now, there's my background fabric. I'm going to give it a little press. Welcome to do FPP with Beth. Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so I'm giving it a nice little iron, just getting it flat. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to cut a piece that I think is going to be big enough to cover A2 with a seam allowance all the way outside of this block. So you want to make sure you at least have it to that dotted line. And then I'm also going to want a 1/4" going into A3, all right? So I'm going to cut big enough. Another great tip is, oh my gosh, I don't know how big to cut this fabric. Lay it on and like, okay, I need about this big of a block right here, okay? So that, I'm going to eyeball it. And I'm always going to cut bigger. That's going to be the thing that I say a lot tonight, that you're going to be like, oh my God, stop it. But it's true. If you don't cut big enough and, you know, you try to add on, sometimes you can use it later on. Of course, you can always use it later on. But you're cutting more fabric. And so in a sense, you are making more waste. So it's always nice just to cut a little bit bigger than you think you're going to need before. Okay, so this is not very easy to see because it is a lighter fabric, but this definitely has a right side and a wrong side. It's a low volume, but I hope you can see that this is the pretty side. And since this is not piece 1, this is right sides up. Every piece after the first piece is right sides up, okay? The only special piece is that piece number 1 that goes right sides down, okay? So lay your fabric right sides up and then take your template with your folded paper and lay it on top of that fabric. And you want to make sure that this shape right here, the outline of A2, fits into the fabric that you picked out and that you have laid down, okay? You don't need to worry about bias. You could be maybe a little bit more cautious of it and cognizant of it, but I never do, honestly. I just cut willy-nilly, especially when I am using scraps, because I can never remember how I cut those in the first place, and I'm not going to check every piece. But that could be something that you could definitely do, okay? So I've got my piece right here. This looks like it definitely fits. I've got my seam allowance covered. So I'm going to take this on over to my sewing machine. This is the first line we're stitching tonight. So make sure that your sewing machine is set to 1.5 or lower, okay? 1.5 or lower, and we are going to start right on that line, the line that connects A1 to A2. We're not going to go ahead of it. You're just going to start at the very, very top of it and go to the end, okay? So you're going to hear my little machine purring. Here we go. My dogs are a-barking and my machine is a-purring. Now, I would love to tell you something at this step, and I really hope it doesn't confuse you. But let me explain, okay? Do you see how the line that we just sewed on, this part of the line is butting into another section of the pattern, and then this side of the line is going outside of the block. It's not going into any other piece of the pattern, okay? So in this instance, it's okay to go past the end of your line because you're going off the block, okay? And you're not running into anything else. But on this side, since if I started ahead of this, I would be going past this line to A3, okay? I would be sewing into that line. So I'm just saying this, if you understand what I'm saying, it's always okay to sew past the line going outside of the block. It's not okay to sew into another piece, okay, on your lines. So that's really, really important. But if that's just too tricky, don't worry about it. Just start at the top and at the bottom. And then when you get more practice and more experience, it'll make sense what I'm talking about. This just ensures a little bit more sturdy of a seam, okay? So this is what it looks like right after you sewed your line. You didn't do anything funky with it. That's what it looks like. Oh my God! It looks like it's wrong sides up. Don't fear, because every time you sew, you're going to put it down and then you're going to flip that fabric on over and you're going to give it just a little tug. You can finger press it, you can seam roll it, you can iron it, you can do all the things. You could use a clapper, you could do whatever. You're going to fold it on over. I like to give it a little press at this stage so it's nice and flat. A nice little press. Okay, and now we're done. Bam! We're done with A2 at least. Okay, so now we're going to find the line that connects A2 to A3. So bam, bam. What line, and you know, this is kind of an easy one because what line did we not sew on yet? It's going to be this line right here. Let me pick that up. I hope that you're able to see this enough on the camera. Okay, so A2, A3, we are going to be folding and sewing on this line right here. So what I like to do is always position, you see how A3 is right here? I always like to position it upwards, like ahead of me. So that way, when I take my nice flat edge and I line it up right by that line and I can fold it towards me, okay? It makes it a lot less confusing as you continue on in your FPP journey. So that's just a little trick that helps me keep things straight. So we folded on the line. Now we are going to get a nice seam allowance. So fold that paper, get your add a quarter or any other ruler. Beth is channeling. Oh, I don't even know who that is. I hope that's good. And then we are going to trim it. And like, okay, do you see how little this is? That's okay to throw away, okay? That's okay. Unless you keep this kind of stuff for fluffing in pillows or stuffed animals, anything like that. You can throw this away. Just let it go. Otherwise, you're going to be swimming in fabric. This is questionable. Perhaps we could keep it. Perhaps we could not. I'm just going to lay right there and worry about it later. Okay, next step. Looking at A3, what fabric goes there? Well, if you labeled your pieces, then you would know that that is background fabric. That's why it's so good. It's so good to label ahead of time so you're not constantly looking back at the pattern. Because now you just look at what you wrote and you're like, thanks, me. Thanks for setting it up. That was awesome. So you're going to cut a piece of fabric that you think is going to be big enough to cover that. And what did I say? Always cut bigger. So this is definitely big enough, right? For this instruction, for this tutorial, whatever you want to call it, cut bigger. And once you get more comfortable with FPP, you're going to be able to eyeball those pieces easily. You're going to be able to eyeball them and kind of just know, okay, I know just about what that needs to be. So I've got swimming in fabric is an option, rethinks existence. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I guess that doesn't sound too bad. Who wouldn't love to swim in some beautiful Christmas fabric, right? Especially, I feel like you're swimming in stuff, seeing all the stuff coming from your mailbox, Heather. You've got the set up. Okay, so we've got the next piece of fabric for A3. We are going to make it right sides up. This is a low volume. Maybe I should have chosen a different fabric, but like I said, I'm using this for a swap, so I wanted to make it pretty, but this is definitely right sides up. Low volume, kind of confusing, but right sides up. And then you're going to take your template and you're going to lay it on there. You can line up your seam allowance perfect if you want. So like you see how this is our seam allowance that we just trimmed. You can line it up at the very top of that fabric and make it all pretty. But sometimes you're not going to have a perfectly straight edge. It's okay if there's some weirdness going on. You just don't want 10 inches in your seam allowance. That's why you trim it and try to get it nice and tidy. Okay, so now we are going to take it on over to the sewing machine. Once we get over there, we're going to open it up and sew on this line. And let's reference back to what I was saying earlier. Do you see how the start and the end of this line are going outside of the whole entire unit? It's not going into another piece. So in this instance, it's okay to start at the very top of your page and go to the very bottom to get a very strong, secure seam. If that's confusing you, start at the top, end at the bottom, okay? So bring it on over, pinch it, keep it nice and positioned so it doesn't move while you're bringing it over to your sewing machine, and sew on that line. This is now the second line, so if you didn't change your sewing stitch length, try it, okay? You definitely need to have it at 1.5 or lower, okay? So, PSA, change your stitch length if it's not switched yet before we get further in the block. Oh, thank you, Terry. You're a sweetheart. I would keep the green one, LOL. Yeah, I threw it over there. I was like, you know what? I'll probably use that somewhere, right? And it really depends on the pattern too. Like even if you don't have a little perfect area for that, who's to say on the next FPP pattern that you do, you're not going to need a little green fabric piece, okay? That's why I always hang on to like almost everything. I'm terrible about it. I have so many scraps, but I love FPP, and so I know that I'm going to need them. So sometimes when they're really, really little, I just pull the Band-Aid off and I'm like, nope, you cannot stay here. You cannot be here. We have too many of you and your friends. Okay. Usually I go on over to my big cutting mat on my other table, but I'm going to do it right here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, this is very important, so pay attention. We are not going to trim on the solid line, okay? Don't do it. That's the end of your unit. It's not, you need to keep your seam allowance included, because if you cut that seam allowance off, then you are going to be buttoned into your other sections and you're going to lose your design or, you know, whatever you're trying to make. So you really want to make sure that you are trimming on the dotted line. That is your 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you want to make sure that's included. So I really love this ruler. I've said it so many times for FPP. I love that it has all of these 1/4 inch lines. So I just pick a 1/4 inch line and I line it on that solid line and then I trim, because I know that's a 1/4 inch and I'm not going to be cutting off my seam allowance. Okay. So line it on up. And we're going to trim our block because we just completed our A block, our first block of the night. Good job, friends. Let's trim together. Again, pay attention, especially at the very beginning. Pay attention to not trim off your seam allowance, okay? So if you have to stop yourself and be like, wait, okay. And this is for people new to FPP. I'm assuming that some of you in this chat have never done this before. So if you've done FPP and you're like, come on, Beth, let's go. I know how to do this. Bear with me. Feel free to work ahead if you're comfortable with that. I just want to make sure that I give thorough instructions for those of us who are trying this for the first time and really want to learn the process, okay? I'm a repetitive teacher. I've learned. I will repeat it. I will literally kick the horse whilst I'm just like constantly repeating myself. But I feel like that's what helps me. So there you go. There is your first block. See how beautiful it is? And let's look at the back, shall we? Do you see that solid line going all the way around? And we have indeed that 1/4 inch going all the way around. We did not cut that off. Very important. So bam, bam, bam. Give it a nice little press over on your ironing board. And then set it aside. We're going to move on to the next one. This is like our biggest piece of the pattern. So these next sections are going to go really quickly. So let's get her done. All right. And for the sake of, following the alphabet, let's look for our B piece, shall we? A, B, C. You don't have to follow, in that order, but I'm just gonna try and keep it nice and easy tonight, all right? Good evening, Patty. All right. Make it winter fabric, and I am in. Yes, with all the metallics and pretty reds and greens. Yes, please. Okay, so again, we are going to be looking at the numerical order of the block, okay? We see B1, B2, B3, and if you were responsible, you labeled them ahead of time so you're not looking at the pattern over and over and over again, okay? BG, background. CL, for me, is Christmas lights, and then another background section. We're going to start on B1, of course, and what's the rule with B1? What's the rule with B1? I'm going to pound this in because it's literally like only a couple rules of FPP, okay? The first piece is right sides down. You change your stitch length, and that's really about it. And then you don't trim off your 1/4 inch. That's it. Those are very important rules. So B1, right sides down. I'm going to grab background fabric, and look, wow, I have a scrap because I cut bigger than I needed on another piece. And look, that's going to work fantastic right there. Excuse me. Sorry. So I'm going to have this one right sides down. Right sides down. Okay. So it's down. All right. Right sides down. And then you're going to look at your pattern and you're going to get your handy dandy glue stick back out and put a little dab of glue. Don't go overboard. Okay. We're not doing paper mache tonight. We're doing FPP. So just put a little nice line. It's just giving you something to where your fabric doesn't shift, okay? Good night, Janine. Giving you a hug. So then you're going to lay it on there. And see how I have extra going all the way around? I know that I'm well within my seam allowance range. I've got plenty of fabric. So we're good, okay? If you don't have a piece as big as this for your piecing right now, just make sure that you've got enough going a 1/4 inch out all the way around on the top, the side, the bottom, and then a 1/4 inch over into B2. That is your seam allowance, okay? I know, I have my energy back tonight. Today honestly was pretty interesting with the kids, but I have more energy than I did last night. I felt like I was in zombie mode. I was like, let's just get a block done, and I felt almost lethargic. I was like, I need to go to sleep. And I still didn't get sleep last night. Okay, I kind of went ahead there. So what line goes into B2 from B1? This line right here. Let me just really, B1, B2. This line is right in between them. It connects B1 to B2. So we're going to fold on that line, fold it back, and then trim a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Say you don't have a 1/4 inch ruler. Say you don't really care about having the perfect, beautiful 1/4 inch. You could just grab your scissors and go snip and just estimate it, okay? It's fine. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, so we've got our 1/4 inch ruler. Now we're going to flip it over and we're going to see, okay, that's Christmas light fabric on B2. So I'm going to grab another scrap that I have over here because I think that's going to work really nicely. And it's available because I cut bigger. I don't have to recut, so that's really nice. So this is going to be perfect. And this is not a first piece. This is second, okay? So the only piece that is special in FPP is the first piece. Every other piece past piece 1 is right sides up every single time, all right? So then you're going to lay it. And this is kind of a tricky one, okay? Because there's an angle. You're going to make sure. Let me get a pen and really outline and show you, okay, where that outline is. So, hold on. I can even see it with how my light system is set up. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is the line, the shadow that I see through the paper of what B2, what that shape is. So I'm going to lay it onto my fabric, and I'm going to make sure that I've got enough fabric covering that section with a seam allowance. Sometimes you just have to reposition your fabric and make it work. Okay, see what I did there? I moved my fabric so that it would work. Wow, something fell. Oh lordy. Okay, so then we're gonna lay that down I'm gonna double check and really make sure. And that's when, like, sometimes I'll like put my finger on a point of that shape and I'll lift up the paper and look underneath. So this is well within range. This is what I need. So I'm gonna take it on over to the sewing machine and sew on that line. Thank you, Teresa, for sharing the link again. Here we go. I'm gonna go have to bust some skulls. These dogs are just barking, okay? So this is what it looks like right when we got done. We didn't do any folding yet, okay? So, oh no, this looks upside down. Don't worry about it, because we're gonna fold it over. Every time you get done sewing and you bring it on over, you're gonna fold that piece of fabric that you just attached over on itself. And look, right side's up. Perfect. And then you're gonna take it and you are going to press that seam down. I like to bring it on over to my little iron. It's over here out of range. And I'm going to iron it down. How is everyone doing right now? Is it making sense for the newer FPPers in the group right now? Have we run into any issues? Are we hanging in there? Are we following along? How many of you guys downloaded the block? How many of you guys are making this along with me? I would love to know. Okay, so B2 is right here. Now we're gonna go on over to B3 and we're gonna read that label. It says BG, so that tells me I'm gonna be using another background fabric. So first things first, let's grab a little section and oh my gosh, I've got more scraps from earlier. So I'm gonna lay them on there and see, yeah, that's definitely big enough. So I'm going to iron it again. Thank you, Mary. I'm going to iron it again, and I'm going to make sure that it's big enough. It definitely is. I'm going to get my straight edge. Maybe I can, like, hold on. Oh, look at that. Zoom in. Is that better for you guys? I have a fear that you're not able to see anything that I'm doing right now. Okay, take your straight edge, put it, like, right up against that line, and fold your piece of paper back towards yourself. Crease it, then grab your ruler of any sort. You're just going to make sure it's a 1/4 inch and then slice it. Slice it. Get that 1/4 inch all nice and pretty. I'm just now gluing my first piece. No worries, Amy. I'm so glad you're doing it with us. I'll be doing it later today. I'm just watching now as I'm doing my housework. You know what? I need to do that too. Okay, so we've got it folded. Now we are going to take our fabric and right sides up because it's not that first piece anymore. It's our third piece, okay? So right sides up, and we're going to lay our block down. Oh, that's not, okay. Let me just show you different ways that don't work, okay? So, oh boy, that definitely doesn't work. There's no background fabric underneath that. Not going to work. Sometimes you just have to fiddle around with it, especially if you're working with weird angled scraps. And so let me show you, like, right here. This fits. This fits when I position my template or my block and my fabric just this way. It fits my entire shape right here, and I've got my seam allowance and everything. But uh-oh, what's this? Hanging out in my seam allowance. Don't worry about that, okay? Sometimes you have to make it work. And when you've got angled pieces, sometimes you'll have some extra floating around in your seam allowance. Don't let that freak you out, okay? You could right now say that just drives you absolutely nutty. Just trim it off, okay? That's your seam allowance right now. Better? I do know that was something that was tripping up my mother-in-law the other night because she was working with some angled fabrics. We were doing like half square triangles on a pattern that we were doing. And so a lot of the times to make what section she had work, she had extra flapping around in the seam allowance, and it was really throwing her off because she was like, oh my God, I did something wrong. Don't worry about it, okay? You can trim it before, or you could sew it and then trim it after. So this is what it looks like right now. I'm going to flip it on over on itself, right on that line that we sewed, and get a finger press or a seam roller, or I like to iron it each step too. Okay, I've got to get this. I'm in a Tula Pink Solar Flare class. Ooh, that sounds fun. Patty said, I downloaded the block, going to prep and sew FPP as a leader and ender while I sew stockings. Oh, that sounds really fun. Yeah, Patty makes stockings like nobody's business. She told us the other night that she makes so many stockings each year for charity, right? I think that's just fabulous. So now we are back to trimming our block, okay? And again, do not sew off that 1/4 inch past that solid line. That is your 1/4 inch, okay? We are trimming on the dotted line. I feel like outside of these rules, though, like there's really what, like 3 rules of FPP. That's what I like about it. Once you get the muscle memory of it down, because that's really what it is. It's just muscle memory. It's a process. You don't really have to think about it. As much as you have to introduce, with traditional piecing, you're constantly thinking, right? You're thinking about math. You're thinking about piecing and trying to get a straight line. Heck, FPP gives you the line that you need to sew on. And so we trimmed our pieces, and we made sure that we did not trim off our 1/4 inch all the way around. Look at that. So why don't we grab, just to give a little look-sees, our piece that we just sewed and just lay it on top and kind of see, oh, cool, that's what it's going to kind of look like once we join our sections. That's looking pretty good. So let's set these aside, all right? Give it a nice little press, set them aside. We're going to finish all of our blocks. So now we're going to move on over to C. These are going to go so fast. These are perfect for beginners, and if you're wanting to make a lot of these, it's not going to take you a long time. Do you notice how a lot of these blocks just have three pieces, and B only has 2? Like, this is going to go so fast. Beth, will you show again where you stitch on lines? Do you start the line and stop at the end of a line? Okay, yeah, that's a great question. I would love to show you. Okay, so look at the back of my piece of A, okay, that we just did. And I apologize again. I know the lighting is just terrible. Let's try and get it a little bit better, okay? So, and it might be hard because I'm also using light thread. Wow, Beth, you should have thought about that, okay? But, okay, so A1, A2, we sewed on this line first, correct? I hope this is going to show it. I started at the very edge of my paper because it's going outside of the block. In this instance, it's okay. But do you notice how I did not go past the end of that first line because it's going into to A3. We do not want to sew into other sections, okay? It is okay to sew outside of your whole piece. I'm trying to think of, like, let's call these sections, and then the whole thing is a block, okay? You do not want to sew into other sections. You can sew outside of your block, all right? So on that first line, I started at the very top because I know there's nothing over here. There's nothing over here that I'm going to be sewing into, but I stopped right at the end of my line because it buds up to that other line, okay? That tells us that's going into another piece. Now, on our second line that we sewed, this one's a little bit different because this line is not going into A2. It's not going into A3. It is literally, you can start at the very, very top and you can end at the very, very bottom. This line is just going bam, okay? It's not going into anything else. I would love to show you, hold on. I know that we're doing this pattern. Let me show you a different pattern, okay? Just to explain why, just to explain a little bit better, okay? So let's look here at A1, shall we? Okay, this is A1. Okay, this is crazy. Don't start exiting out, all right? I'm just telling this for the line purposes because Amy asked. And so I really want to, like, pound this home, okay? We would not start anywhere before and after these lines. You know why? Because it's inside the block. It's not going outside. It's going into 6. It's going into 2. It's going into 3. All of them are kind of going into each other. The only lines that would be okay to start before the line and end past the line would be, you know, this line right here by 17. because it's not going into any other blocks. It is helpful. Let me grab my pin. I don't know where it keeps walking on off to. Sometimes it's helpful to take a little pin and just extend that line out a little bit. Okay, follow that line and just go straight out. Do you see how this is not going into another block? This is not going into another block. Let's extend one of these other lines, okay? I'm extending it past the beginning and I'm extending it past the end. Uh-oh. You see how it would be getting into 5, 6, 11, 3, 12, 7. So I hope that makes sense, okay? I really hope. But don't stress over it. If that's just confusing the heck out of you and giving you some anxiety, just start at the top of your line and end at the bottom, okay? And once you get more experience, you will be more comfortable. You'll understand what I'm talking about, okay? A lot of this, sometimes you just have to finagle with it. All right, where did our C piece go? There's our C piece, and it's got 3 little pieces. I'm going to read my labels to make sure I've got my fabric ready to go. I don't know how terribly zoomed in this is. There we go. Okay, awesome, Amy. I can also send you it's hard to show sometimes, like especially at this angle. But maybe I can make like a little short video on YouTube and explain that, okay? So there we go. C1's in the middle, C2's on top, C3's on the bottom. So we're gonna find a piece of fabric that is that black cord. You can make it any color, but I'm gonna be using black. So I'm gonna find a piece of fabric that's big enough to enclose that shape of C1 and have a 1/4 inch seam allowance going into, all the way around. That's gonna give us something to sew onto. So I'm gonna grab, this is a new piece of fabric. We haven't cut into our black yet. So I'm gonna cut off a little piece of this black. You don't need a huge crazy piece for this. Again, cut bigger than you think you need, but you don't need to cut, a 10-inch square for this, okay? So I still cut obnoxiously, but you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's not crazy. Bam! That's pretty big for this. I mean, it's almost the size of the entire block, but it's not like a 10-inch block. It's okay. Again, I just suggest that you cut bigger when you're starting out. Okay, so the first piece is always right sides down, but oh my gosh, this is a solid, so it doesn't matter. So that's a really great tip if you're wanting to start out and, having the pieces of fabric that have patterns, right sides, wrong sides. If it's tripping you up, just get some solids and batiks and it's going to be fine, okay? So C1, I'm going to put a little dab of glue on here. Following that should be enough. And I'm going to lay it onto that piece of fabric and I'm going to make sure that I've got a 1/4 inch. I definitely have a big enough piece. When I fold this down, oh, I've got some there. When I fold it up, oh, I've got some there, and I've got some on this side and this side. So I definitely have enough. Next, we're going to go into C2, and I labeled my fabrics upside down. So don't let that trip you up, okay? This is C2. I'm going to take my straight edge. I'm going to lay my little straight edge right underneath that line that connects C1 to C2. So this one right here. And I'm going to fold it on over. Okay, give it a nice little crease. OG course here, I am fussy cutting my first piece. Oh my gosh, nice. I'm excited to see what you make. Be sure to share them in the Discord tonight. If you are making this along with me, I would love to see what fabrics you're using. This is a really versatile pattern. Say you don't love Christmas. It's fine. You could definitely make this something fun and different. You don't have to make it Christmas. If that's not your jam or maybe not your holiday, if you like Halloween, do you like certain sports teams? You could use their colors. You could do Valentine's Day colors. You could, the limits are endless, okay? So second piece, right sides up. We know this, right sides up. Do you use Elmer's purple or white glue? I actually use clear. Well, I guess it's white, but it comes clear. It doesn't put anything crazy on, but you could use purple too. Again, you don't need a ton of it, okay? You're securing the fabric on there because right now there's no stitching holding that first piece You know, we haven't attached the second piece on. So I really like that it keeps my fabric securely in place and it doesn't shift, doesn't get crazy, doesn't bubble, doesn't ripple, doesn't do any of it. And then when I get my second piece all positioned and sewed, then it's secured to the paper and we're good to go. You do want to make sure you're careful with using the glue stick. You don't want to use a lot, okay? It's very important because especially if you have lighter fabrics. I don't know if you remember that Baby Yoda. I don't know if you remember that Baby Yoda that I literally plastered everywhere. But in his ears, I used a really light pink. And in some of those sections, I used too much glue. So when it came to the point where I was tearing out my paper, a lot of that paper wasn't coming off and some of the residue wasn't coming off either. And you could see it in between the layers. Like once I sandwiched it and quilted it, you could see some discoloration in the light pink. So you just really want to make sure you're not putting a ton on. It's just enough to where you can bring it on over to your sewing machine and get that first stitch in. So I was rambling, I'm sorry about that, but we've got our second piece right side up. We're going to take our template, we're going to lay it down on there. We definitely have some room. I see some extra fabric right there. I'm going to lift this. I see fabric up here. I'm good, okay? I've got an obnoxiously big piece for this section, and that's okay. That's okay. Now I'm going to sew on that line. Now this block is a great block, okay? This is a great block to show you where you can go ahead and past. So let me extend this line. If you were to extend these lines, okay, I'm trying to get this like in a good view. Beep, 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 beep. If you were to extend these lines past your block or whatever, it's going outside. It's going outside. None of these lines are going into another, you know, it's not going into C4, or C5, or C6. It's going outside of your block. So in this case, it's okay to start at the top of your paper and go past, you know, go past your end line and go ahead of your beginning line. You can just go bloop all the way down because you're not butting into any other pieces, okay? I'm using my Sew Line glue stick that I use for EPP. That glue isn't permanent and it's easy to remove, but sticks when you need it to. Amen, sister. Yeah, I've heard great things about that. I haven't tried it yet, but just because I hate waiting for shipping, so I hate waiting for shipping and I hate paying for shipping. So I just like going to Walmart and I just get the cheap stuff and I go through it really fast. So if it was something that I wasn't doing as often, maybe I would like invest in like the nicer stuff just to try it. But I use the glue like every time. I'm always doing FPP, so I would be spending a pretty penny. You gotta find different areas to kind of like cut costs sometimes. So now we're going to go into C3. We're going to look for the line that connects C1 to C3, and it's this line that we didn't sew on yet, okay? So we're going to put our straight edge right up below it, just a little bit, and we're going to fold it down. And say like you did put glue on it and it's like sticking, just pull it. Just separate it from the fabric and pull it. And it's that way you can get a nice fold on that line. Then you're going to get your 1/4 inch ruler, butt it up against that fold, slash. And I'm looking for another background piece. Okay. Where did, I thought I had another, oh, okay. So I have like a ton hanging off of my piece right here. So right now I'm going to cut the extra that's flopping off my block and use it for this next piece. Notice how I didn't cut on my seam allowance or anything crazy. It was way outside of the block. Right sides up, lay your piece on top and make sure that your fabric underneath on the very bottom is enclosing this whole shape of C3. It is, so let's take it on over and sew. That's what it looks like right now before you do anything crazy with it. Fold it out on itself and then get a nice little finger press, seam roll, iron. I iron, so I like to just give it a nice little press. Ah, yay, look at that. That's really nice and fun. So now let's flip it over. We got all of the pieces sewn onto the section C3, C2, C1. I don't know why I went in that order, but I did. And then we're going to trim our block up because you see all this extra hanging out. We don't want that. So we're going to, again, make sure you are trimming on the dotted line. Do not trim on the solid line. Make sure that you keep your seam allowance attached to your block so when you go to join it, you don't lose your elements of your design, of the pattern. If you cut that off, then you would lose 1/4 inch of everything. And that would just get crazy. Imagine losing 1/4 inch of your chin or eyes or, part of a tree branch. It can get crazy in a pattern if you lose your seam allowance, and it could look really funky and not look like what it's supposed to be, and that's not what we want. So this is looking good. We're going to set it aside. We gave it a nice little press. We're going to put it with our other blocks, and then we're going to move on to this one. Oh, just kidding. This one's going to be like doop doop so fast. So D1 I see is a background because I labeled it. I was thinking ahead of time. So background and then another piece of the cord. So I'm going to use black there. So I'm going to find a little background piece. You could go through your trash can right now. Depending, do you have like food and crazy stuff in there? Don't be mixing your fabric with that. But I don't put any like liquids or anything in my trash. It's just fabric scraps. So I'm going to see if I can find a background piece that I threw away maybe that I thought was too small before I cut something new off of my fabric. So let's just audition some. Here's one that I threw away. Oh, that looks big enough. Bingo. Oh, here's another one that I threw away. Let's see. Oh, that's big enough. Bingo. So that I know that these are big enough for this section, and I'm going to be making multiple of them. I'm going to take these and I'm going to set these other ones aside. I'm not going to throw them away again. Silly me. Okay, so D1, first piece, guys. First piece. Ding, 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 ding. Right sides down. Right sides down. First piece. Then we're going to put a little dab of glue on the underneath of B or whatever piece that is. Something one. D1. And then we're going to lay it on there. Boop, 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 and then press it on, press it on, press it on, press it on. And then we're going to find the line that connects B or D1 to D2, and it's literally the only line that's on there. This is like a really easy one, okay? So hopefully we do well on this one. And then we're going to fold it on that line, fold it back, and then trim our seam allowance. Boop. Now this one, where am I going to use this? I'm throwing this one away, okay? I'm throwing it away. Throwing it away. Committing to it. Okay, now I need a black section, and I don't believe I threw away any of that black fabric. Or I can't find it anyway. So I'm going to cut an itty bitty little square. Just a tiny little square. Just a tiny, tiny, tiny little square. It's still obnoxiously big though, because that's what I'm telling you guys to do tonight. Wow, that is huge compared to the size of this block, but it's just a good practice. It's a good thing to do when you're starting out to cut a little bit bigger than you need, okay? This is obviously really, really big. It is definitely big enough. We're going to lay it on there. It's a solid, so it doesn't matter, but if you had a printed fabric right now, you'd make sure that you have right sides up, because it's not the first piece, it's the second piece. Any fabric, any piece after the first piece is right sides up always. Does not matter with the solid. It's the same thing. And then you're going to go sew on that line. Beep. Bring it on back on over here and flip it on over on itself. Right on that line that you sewed. Finger press it. I like to press it with my iron. Right? awesome. Now we're going to turn it on over and trim, making sure that we're not cutting off our seam allowance. Going all the way around. So something that's really big in the FPP world is getting a rotating cutting mat, because it saves some time when you're trying to trim all the way around your block. I did purchase one just to see what the heck I would think about it. Do I use it? No, I don't. But I can see why it's helpful. There you go. So there's that piece. It was easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. So let's go on over to our last piece, and then we're going to get to joining our block together. I think we can get this done in time, okay? Before I have to get going. So E1, again, I labeled these upside down. Don't let it trip you up. I was not paying attention, obviously. E1 is a cord fabric, so I'm going to get another black piece. Okay, I'm going to iron it so there's no weird crinkles anywhere. And then I am going to put some glue. I keep forgetting where my camera is. Hello. I'm going to put some glue on the back of E1. Just a little bit. So let's talk about paper, all right? So as you guys can see, I'm just using regular copy paper. I wanted to assume that some of you guys have never done FPP ever in your life. So maybe you didn't have the fancy smancy paper. Now, I will say, you can definitely use copy paper. As you can see right now, I'm putting this together. It's not, bursting into flames because it's not, the more expensive paper. None of that. It's working just fine, as you can see. But the thing that makes it nice to have the special paper is it's thinner. So all the time when you're working on FPP, you're always trying to see the underneath of your sheet, right? You're trying to see the outline of the next piece that you're trying to enclose in fabric. And so if you have thicker paper, which copy paper definitely is thicker than FPP paper, like the Carol Dokes paper is a lot thinner. It makes it harder to see past or underneath your fabric. It also is thicker, so naturally that means it's going to be a little bit trickier to peel off the back of your block. When you're all done and you've got your whole table runner put together and you have all of your papers in your thing, it's going to be a lot easier to tear out thinner paper than it will be with the copy paper. This is Christmas Morning Fabric by Lila Boutique. This is my all-time favorite Christmas fabric in the entire single world. I just absolutely love it. So did I go a little bit nutso last year and buy all of it because I was scared that it was going to go out of print? Yes, I did. That is me. If I really fall in love with something, that is like my irrational fear that it's going to go out of print and I'm going to have to pay a small fortune to ever use it again. So I bought a poop ton of it. I was going to say crap ton. I'm just going to say crap ton. I bought a ton of it because poop sounds better or worse than crap. So sorry about that. I bought a lot of it. I think I bought like an upwards of like 6 yards of this background color. Look at that. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like it is really, really pretty. So there it is. Okay. Let's assume you don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. We've trimmed, we've folded, we've grabbed our fabric. It's FaceTime up. It's pretty sides up. Now we're going to take it on over and sew on that line. I hope it's making sense now, okay? I hope it's coming together. Light bulbs are going off as we're making light bulbs. I have a ton of Christmas morning as well. I love it. Isn't it just gorgeous? Oh my gosh. I freaking love it. Okay, so now we're going to bring it on over. We're going to fold it on over on itself. Fold it on over. Beep. Yeah, I love it. It's so, so pretty. I got the whole bundle. Like, that was Austin's Christmas present for me. I went into Casey Makers and I was like, they've got a bundle. They only have one left. And it was on sale too. I think it was like 20% off or something. They had some holiday sale going. And I was like, I really got to. And I was even able to score some of this fabric off of like the Sew Sampler swap pages because it was in a box. And whenever I see people getting rid of it, I'm like, I will take that. I will give it a home. I will nurture it. I will make sure it gets put into something pretty because it's just gorgeous. Okay, so now we're looking into E3. So we're going to look for the line that connects E1 to E3. It's the line that we haven't sewed on yet. It's right there. Fold it. If you have to say it out loud when you're starting, go for it. Say fold, trim, and then grab your fabric and sew. Fold, trim, grab your fabric and sew. So I'm going to grab, okay, let's do it again. See how I've got all this extra going way past my seam allowance on here? I need a background section. I think I've got plenty right here. So I'm going to cut me off a slice. Bring it on over here, right sides up, lay it down, grab my template, lay it on there. Wow, it works. It's perfect. So I'm going to bring it over there and sew on that line. Now we're going to get into, once we're done piecing this, you sound like me in the Practical Magic line from, oh, I want more. I'm going to have to look that up. I don't think I've seen that. What line is it? Or like what brand is it? I'm really picky about Christmas fabric. Let me tell you, I am so picky. I am not a huge fan of like the super cheesy stuff. I'm not a huge fan of like the super like traditional, like crusty looking Santa. That's just like not my style. I really like this line because it's very like laid back Christmas, very sleek, very classy. For me, I love it. Now, when I see other quilts and I see other placemats or stockings or tree skirts, I'm not, oh my God, look at that fabric. I appreciate fabric, but there's some fabrics that I just won't purchase for myself. I really am picky about Christmas fabric, and I don't know why. I feel like there's just so many different styles and ways you can go with Christmas. And the colors are huge for Christmas, right? Like you want to have the right, like depth of color. I'm trying to think of like the actual artsy fartsy words for them, but it's like there's so many different things to balance within the color itself. All right, if we did it correctly, this is what you should be seeing. Look at that. All right, now let's go bring our little work in progress pile on over here. It's like behind, it's not wanting to be picked up. It's like, no. Okay, and what I like to do at this step, let's zoom out just a tad so you can see a little bit better, okay? What I like to do, so I know where everything's going, is lay out my block. If you need to reference your pattern at this point, definitely do so. I know that goes right about there. Oh, where does this go? I don't know. Maybe I'll grab my iPad and check it out. I don't think I have my camera on. Okay, there we go. So it looks like, there we go. And there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. That's looking correct to me. Do you see how these pieces are kind of coming up off the paper? I really like to, oh cool. I really want to make sure that I give these a press before I start joining them. That way these fabrics don't like do this number, you know what I'm saying? And then you've got like a bubble in your piecing. Another great tip is say you've got these pieces and they are just not staying down. You've got your glue stick. Tell it what to do. Say lay down, fabric. Get on down there. And then bam, look at that, much better. Again, not using a ton, just putting that fabric where you want it. Oh, I love that Christmas morning fabric, and darn, I didn't get any. Oh my gosh. If you're on Facebook, Mary, I suggest you check out the Sew Sampler swap page. If you're not, a Sew Sampler, sometimes you'll see older boxes, and I know that there was a fat quarter bundle with this fabric line in it, okay? All right, so now let's look at piecing. Let's say we didn't have our pattern right here, In FPP, there are no Y seam piecing. So you need to make sure, it's kind of like a little puzzle. Honestly, that's why I really like it. It's like a little brain puzzle. This one obviously is a very easy beginner friendly. So you can see that these go together and you can't just go, oh, I'm going to put this one onto it. Nope, you have to piece these together and then you would move on to those. So let's piece these bigger sections together right now. This is when you're going to want to grab your pins out and your clips. So I'm going to just take them over and give them just a nice little press real quick. Really make sure they're nice and flat. Sometimes that fabric can pop up from the seam that you have and get crazy. So now this is just like any other sewing, okay? Right sides together, line it up, and the trick for FPP, for making sure you get good alignment, good joining with your points, is you take a little pin here and you stick it through on that corner. I'm trying to look at my phone and see what I can see because my laptop is frozen, okay? So here's my pin. I'm going to pin it right through that corner right there. And wow, look, on the very back, it came out that corner. So that's looking good. Now I'm going to like walk my hands through. I always like try to flatten it down. And then I get another pin and I poke it through that very, very corner. And I want to see it come out the back. That's a little, sometimes you just have to reposition it. Okay, that's looking good. Do you see how that's coming out right on the corner? I apologize for my lighting. I'm not a professional yet. I really tried on this setup, but I do think the lighting, whoa, may be a little dark, so I apologize. So now you've got your two pins in there. We're going to take our little wonderful clips that we did not pay full price for. These are the nice like $8 bucket from Amazon. I've been using them for years. I don't like to pay full price for anything unless it's fabric. Even then, I cringe at the thought of spending full price. Okay, we're going to clip them, and we're going to sew at the very, very top of our page and all the way down. So ahead of your line, this is not where we're going to be focused on, well, this line, I should probably start there and in there. No, you're just going to sew it together just like you would any other block, okay? Any other block traditionally pieced, you just sew a straight line all the way through. So let's do that. All right, this is what we've got before we do anything. So what I like to do is before I open up my seam and iron it, I like to take out the paper that's in my seam allowance. So those skinny little sections, I'm taking them out. Okay, flipping it over, taking that out. Throwing that away. It's always good to have a trash can nearby with FPP, and there's a lot of stuff being thrown away. So now I'm going to open it, and then I'm going to iron it, okay? I'm going to iron it. I don't really care about open seams. Honestly, I never really care about open seams. If you're an open seams person, go for it. Be an open seams person. FPP, I feel like that's just an added headache almost, so bad girl, such a dun-dun-dun, beep, beep. Oh, Zoe loves that song. Okay, so let's just have an honesty moment, okay? I'm not perfect, although I do FPP all the freaking time. Look, I've got a little bit off. Look at that. Oh no, am I gonna go throw in the trash and cry? No, I'm just gonna keep going. It's gonna be okay, okay? It's going to be okay. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens. If you want to avoid this happening in the future, what you could do is do everything we just did, do your pins, do your clips, do all of that. And then use a regular stitch length when you're sewing it, open it up and be like, oh, dang it, that's not right. I'm gonna seam rip, and I'm not gonna have to seam rip a million stitches because I changed it. Say you did a normal line down and you open it and it's like, oh, it's perfect, it looks great, this alignment is just the best thing I've ever done before. Then you would change your stitch length back down and sew again on that line. I did not do that, okay? For time's sake, I'm just like going through it, and this is just an honesty moment. I'm not perfect, okay? I don't even want to come off that way. I'm not perfect, so I thought I would show you right there. All right, so now we're gonna piece these 3 sections together. If you wanted to be a perfectionist, you could definitely do the pinning, do the clipping, do all of that. Since I've already gone past that and my ankle's not perfect, I'm not too worried about it. It's a really small section, so I'm just gonna line it right sides together and sew it together. You can do your pins, definitely pin in that corner, clip, but since it's just a small one, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And then I'm going to take these out. Maybe what I'll do is I'll make this one like a little mug rug for her, because I have to do one big project and 2 small ones. So I'll do like the table runner, and then I'll make like a little matching mug rug. Look at that. And then I'll make her a little ornament at the same time. Because though I'm not a perfectionist and I'm not perfect, that does kind of drive me a little bit crazy. Not crazy enough to seam rip though. It'll make a perfect mug rug, and I'll try to hide it with some quilting. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It will be fine. So again, I'm going to iron these sections down before I get started, because they like to be unruly and get a little crazy. And then I'm going to go right sides together and sew on that line. Again, I'm not caring about being perfect right now. On the patterns that have tiny little sections, and there's like 1,000 pieces in it, and there's angles that you have to match up, and it's just overwhelmingly detailed, I would be pinning every single step. I would be clipping every single step, making sure I have proper alignment. But since this is just like an easy little block, it's okay. It's okay to wing it sometimes, okay? Okay. There we go. And then now we're going to take it and we're going to attach it on over to here. And since, you could also look here and see where your seams are and be like, oh, I need this to like match up right about here. So then you could take your pin it. Be-dee-doo. That's fine. Pin it on over here. And then you can clip as you just were doing. And then kind of keep an eye on those seams. All of my clips are like hanging out by my sewing machine. Thank you, Mary. No Y seams, Terry says. Yes, I love it. And it's just a little puzzle. Honestly, I suck at puzzles. I'm not terrible. I'm going to give myself a little bit credit. I can put a puzzle together, but just doing it with fabric is so much more fun. So now we're going to sew this line, and then we'll have our completed block. So let's go on over here. I think I have like a mail out date for this swap is like November. So I've got plenty of time to practice my points. She's going to get this and be like, what the heck, man? It's okay. It's okay. We're all human. Some nights we have better points than others. Some nights we're operating at a more perfectionist level, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, we ripped out our little seam allowance ones. Now we're going to flip it on out and press. press it down, press it down, press it down. And then that's what we've got. Not perfect. I'm literally almost like, man, like a 1/4 inch off right there. I don't know how that happened, honestly. I just wasn't far over enough. I was just a hair over. That's okay. This will make a really nice little mug rug or, you know, something for her as well, in addition to a table runner. So there we go. Look at that. Terry's got a lovely suggestion. I can't even talk. A lovely suggestion. She says, you can even cut a piece of fabric in random pieces and sash each one with a bit of black fabric and FPP it back together. It'll look like stained glass. Oh, that's a wonderful suggestion. That would be really, really pretty. I would love to see that. All right. We did it, everybody. We did it. Please let me know in the chat. Was this your first time doing FPP? Did you attempt this with me? I know some of you guys, like Janet's cleaning her house. Everyone clap for her because Lord knows I need to clean this house. This is bad. So she's being responsible, but she's going to sew it on later. There's a lot of you that have it ready to go, but you're going to work on it later as well. Who was working on it with me? Who was making this Christmas light? Who got a perfect point too? Come on. Just call yourself out. We will clap for you because I'm proud. I'm really proud that, you know, there are some of you that have never done FPP and you guys were like, hey, let's do it. Let's do it. So we did it. Since I'm making this a mug rug now because I didn't make it perfect, I'm going to tear out my papers just for funsies. This is one of my favorite parts. Some people hate this, but I have like a natural picking obsession. I love to pick and peel stuff. So that's like the other part of FPP that just feeds my soul. I'm just like, oh, I love it. Rip. Especially when you get a good rip. And I'm using copy paper, so it is kind of more work. It's thicker, but it's okay. Hi, Marie. Thank you, Terry. I love FPP. Usually I get good points, but honestly, I think it's good to show that even people who do FPP almost every single day mess up or aren't perfect. Nobody's perfect. I was sewing up a jelly roll quilt top. Oh, that sounds really fun. What colors are you using? Jelly rolls are so fun. It's funny, whenever we go to the fabric store and we take the kids, that is what Louise goes to pick up all the time. She always wants to grab all of the jelly rolls. It's just funny. Like, she just wants the jelly rolls. Well, sometimes she'll want, like, individual fat quarters, too. But most of the time, she's going for the jelly rolls, or the jelly rolls. There we go. Oops, I thought I heard Heather. Nope, not tonight. And I don't think we're going to be live tomorrow night. I did make a community post on my YouTube. She's got some family in town tomorrow, and I am actually going to be attending my local quilt shop's first anniversary party. They're having like a really nice party. Hi, Tracy. And so I'm going to go attend that and take some pictures there. I am running their Instagram now, which is really, really cool. And so I'm going to get like some videos and some pictures and start posting on her page for her. So that's going to be really fun. Hello. We just finished up our first little block. I'm going to make this into a little mug rug because I didn't make it perfect, but it's okay. It's okay. I feel like I keep saying it's okay, but I also keep bringing it up because I'm kind of salty at myself, but it's okay. It's really okay. If I really cared enough, I could definitely seam rip this and just move it over just a little smidge to make it perfect. But we're not going to do it. I don't feel like getting Jack out. I've never done FPP, Nancy says. Well, I really implore you to try it. It's really, really fun, okay? So let me turn off my... Let's see if we can move this on over to my front camera. Bloop, bloop, Boop, boop. Whoa! Hello, everybody. And let's kind of just, let's see, turn this off. Wait, hello? Hello? That's weird. Hold on. There we go. Let's now take down everything. It's 9:30, so I'm going to start taking my stuff down and chat with you guys. I'm going to turn this off because it always makes me nervous. I'm like, don't break your camera. Don't break your camera. Oh, awesome, Mary. Yeah, I was really excited for this. I was really, really excited for this, to do this. I was hoping that there'd be a lot of people who would do it with me. And maybe if you... Beth, do you like peeling someone that... Oh, you know, do you see the color of my skin, Nancy? I've had some good sunburns in my years. I am very, very fair skinned. And the only perk to getting very, very, very terrible sunburns, I'm much more responsible now in my, than I was in my adolescence. But the best thing about it is I could peel a sunburn and it just was so nice. My mouse was on the floor. Whoopsies. So yeah, I really like to peel that. I also really like to peel like the cellophane or the plastic off of like new packaging, new technology, new screens. Oh my god, I love it. I am making a floss wallet for Teresa's video pattern. Ooh, oh, from her video pattern. That sounds awesome. All right, well, looking through the chat, I'm going to see if I missed any questions while I was working. Oh my gosh, Amy, your Tiny Beasts blocks were absolutely perfect. I remember when I made that block and I sent it in Discord and you were like, oh, that'd be perfect with Tiny Beasts. And I was like, oh yeah, then you made it happen and you did it really, really well. It looks very good. It's just cool to see people making your pattern too. Let's see. I think I'm caught up though. I don't think there were a lot of questions or anything. $100 each year, Patty says, for her Christmas stockings. I got the pattern, not going to touch anything tonight. Been up since 4 a.m. I had to babysit today. Oh, Lord. You sound like me. I was like, I'm going to sleep like a baby. I got my interview out of the way. I'm not like going to be nervous and thinking about everything in my head. Louise would not sleep. She was up from like 4 in the morning and I was like, just go to sleep. Please stop rolling around. We really need to sleep train her. Honestly, it's our own dang faults for co-sleeping with her for so freaking long. Turn light. Oh, so sorry. What even light? Sorry. Sorry about that. I ran out of the background color, so I'm waiting for more to come to finish my project. I'm making your bear paw also. That's awesome. One of my friends out in Canada, on Instagram, she's called the Thrifted Quilter. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, she only buys fabric, pretty much. She only buys it from thrift stores out there. And she uses every single thing that she buys. And I just love that mentality of not being wasteful and not being like obnoxious with buying material, because we get excited about the fabric. I get it. But when I see her and she's like, oh my God, I went to Goodwill and I found like 6 meters of this fabric for $7, I'm like, wow. And I know she's going to use every single part of that. I just love the mindset she has. And I just think it's really, really cool. So if you haven't followed her, I would go follow her. She just finished up my bear paw that I sent her. I think I'm going to make like a correction to it. One of the pieces is missing like a 1/4 inch line around it, but you can just trim it. Like there's enough room on the paper. It just was too far down on the software, I guess, that it cut off. What else? I think that's my only correction. I think I'm going to take the 4-inch version off of it because it's just way too small for those really detailed sections. So maybe I'll add like a 20-inch option, do 8, 16, and 20. But I think it might be my first paid pattern. Once I, get it through testing everything, I want to open up my Etsy shop and then start putting some patterns in there. Don't even ask me, when are you going to make patterns? You're so busy all the time. I know. That's like becoming a concern. I'm like, I definitely want to keep creating patterns, but I'm going to just have to find a really good balance, okay? I'm going to have to be like, okay, I need to section out some time to do some designing because I have a lot of really fun ideas. I want to make some cancer ones, like do some ribbons. I want to do one that says F cancer. And if you're not really into swear words, I feel like if you were to use swear words at any point in your life, it would be in regards to cancer because honestly, F cancer. But I'm also wanting to have an option of cancer sucks with like a ribbon. Doing that in all FPP I think would be really, really fun. And then that way you could personalize the ribbon to whatever color. Based on, if you had loved ones that had it, or if you had it, or if you are, fighting it, or if you've lost loved ones, you could kind of like memorialize that and customize it for you. I think I'm going to make an F cancer one because, that's terrible. All right, well, I hate to get depressing at the very end of our really fun Christmas light live tutorial. I had a blast. So thank you everyone for, hey, stay away from cancer sucks. LOL, it's mine. Okay. So thank you, Janet. Yay! Please send them in the Discord if you made your blocks tonight. I would love to see what fabrics you're using. No question, because you're a great teacher. Oh, thank you so much, Nancy. That makes me feel really good. Thank you. All right, guys. It's 9:30. We finished up a little bit earlier than I thought. I'm glad we were able to finish our block. It's so cute. Honestly, I think I might even on the next ones, like when I make the table runner, I think what I might do is enlarge this to a 12-inch block. So when I go into scaling before printing, I'm going to hit 200% and not 100%. It's going to make it twice as big. I want these a little bit bigger so that I don't have to make as many. You feel me? Thank you, Beth, for teaching us. I appreciate it. I will share my blocks when I finish. Yay, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see them. All right, well, that's all I've got for you guys tonight. I'm going to clean up my little area a little bit. I'm going to get it set up for Donna's blocks. Maybe I'll have some time to work on that. I've got that 1-year anniversary for KC Makers. Their party is tomorrow night. And so I'm going to be doing that. I'm not going to be live tomorrow night. I know I usually go up on Fridays. So I just want to let you guys know I'm going to a party. And then I guess I'll see you Saturday. And then we also have our second live on the 17th, which is Sunday, and we'll make another block. So yeah, bye everyone. I'm so happy to see you all in the chat. Have a good night. Be safe. I'll see you later. Bye. I'm gonna press the button now. Bye, Marie. Bye, Amy. Oh, hold on. I think I'm pressing it.